Alright, this video is a review of my 2010 Tracker Pro Guide V16 with the side console. I bought it new in May of 2010. I've used it every season except for one, so this is technically, it's an 11-year-old boat, but it's a 10-year review of everything I've had to do, everything I like, everything I dislike. So starting with the trailer, the fold-away tongue is awesome. My garage is not very deep, and I'm able to fit the entire boat, and the garage door would be about here if the tongue were to still be sticking out. So I'm able to shut the garage door just barely, and the motor in the back is about 5 inches from the back wall. So I'm able to stick the whole boat inside the garage, which is fantastic. The lift, I guess that's a jack. The factory one started dying on me. It was making a bunch of noise, squealing, didn't sound good. I greased it every season, a couple times a season, didn't matter. The thing eventually gave up the ghost, and I almost dropped the whole boat. So what I do now, I bought this one at Harbor Freight. It's about $20, I think. And I normally lift the boat up off the truck with that, and then I stack a cinder block and a 4x4 underneath the winch, and that holds everything in place. All these original lights were incandescent bulbs. I swapped them out for LED bulbs 2 years ago. I had an incident where a tarp off the side of a tractor trailer had flown off and hooked onto the starboard side light like this and ripped it off, plus a bunch of other stuff. Ripped off my license plate holder, so I took the lid of a Lowe's bucket and cut and made another holder for it. The bearing buddies, they work pretty well. I actually just replaced all wheel bearings on both sides last week. This side, the port side, was starting to make some noise, and I figured I'd nip it in the bud before then. The factory tires that came on the the trailer were some cheap bias ply tires. They lasted about 2 seasons. Started getting cupping. The trailer wasn't hopping, but the cupping was causing eventually the trailer to start hopping. So just cheap tires is my assumption. I bought a set of these Carlisles in 2012 and ran them until last year. I just replaced them again. So figured I got 7 or 8 seasons out of the last set, and they weren't dry rotting or anything. So, but the tread was just finally at the point where it was starting to wear. So I replaced all the bearings. Last week as well, I replaced the whole shackle system. I bought the Dexter wet bolt system and replaced, you can see the thickness of the shackle there. They're 1/2-inch thick shackles versus the factory 1/8-inch thick shackles. That job took me about an hour per side alone, so nothing outrageous, but a huge difference in noise and all. And you can see right here, it's clearly oozing out some grease. I'm going to wipe all that down. I jacked everything up to get it to the point where everything was nice and lubed and quiet, and just haven't wiped anything off yet. Coming around to the back, the 3 lights underneath the rear, the stern roller, they actually just quit working the other day. Again, the trailer's 11 years old, so it was about time for certain things to start going, and I got a new one in the mail the other day. Just have to replace it. The other thing that I did was an upgrade. These are ultimate bunk boards, so it's a composite 2x4, kind of like Trex, but thicker. They're it's about $100 for both port and starboard side, and I replaced them 3 years ago. No issues with them. They definitely scuff the bottom of the boat, but I don't see the bottom of the boat often enough to worry about it. I think that's just about everything with the trailer that I can think of. Again, everything, I replaced bearings and bearings, races, and everything on the hub on this side as well, plus the shackle system. So I think that's it for the trailer. For the boat, I'll start up here at the front. Actually, the winch as well. This is the factory winch. So again, used for 10 seasons, and we're going into my 11th actual season of use now. and no major issues with it. I'm very happy with it. It's only got the gear on one side. Some people complain that it wears out. I haven't had any issues with mine, so not concerned in the least. I did replace the bow roller as well. So I replaced the stern roller and the bow roller, and I went with the I'm not even sure what kind of plastic this is called, but the original rubber one. Just, that's what all this crap up here is from. All these black marks are from the original rubber one. This one doesn't leave any marks. I've cleaned it as best I can. I think I'm gonna have to sand and repaint. So underneath the boat, as I said, she's it's a fishing boat. That being said, I don't try to abuse it, but you can see it got quite a few scrapes and scratches of bumped against rocks. No issues with any of that so far, so no actual hull penetration, so I'm not worried about it. I may eventually sand everything down smooth and repaint, but it's not a priority right now. So onto the actual boat. I'll start up here at the bow again. This clearly is not the factory trolling motor from 2010. It had a Minn Kota Power Drive V2. It was a 54-inch, 42-pound thrust trolling motor. It did the job, for lack of better words. If it was windy out, it was a bear to try to get back to the boat ramp. All your issues with just it being underpowered. The boat's a little too heavy for the 12-volt 52 or 42-pound thrust. A lot of people say, oh no, it's plenty, and I just disagree. I bought this Lowrance Ghost in January, installed it in January, and today was the second time I was able to take it out. Incredibly pleased with this motor, and I still don't even have any of the updated graphs in order to set up plot coursing and everything. So the factory bow mount light, it gave up the Ghost 2 years ago. Actually just started falling apart, and I replaced it with a cheap Atwood one off of Amazon. And this is normally stored in a compartment back there, and I figured I use it on the bow, why not move it up to the bow. From the factory, this compartment did not exist. There was a big open area full of foam. Right now I've got 3 Group 31 batteries in here. There's this battery here, there's a battery back there, and then a battery over there as well. They're all running directly to the trolling motor, which is connected through. This is where the plug used to be for the 12-volt Minn Kota. It had a plug that you actually disconnected, and I'm not a fan of plugs. You're just increasing points of failure, so I got rid of the plug. Hardwired the original Minn Kota, and then of course when I upgraded to the Ghost, I kept everything hardwired. Clearly the pedal, I actually mounted it to the floor. I wasn't going to at first because the power drive pedals are movable, but I figured why not do it. So this compartment originally had 2 giant trash bags full of foam, liquid pour foam. What I did was I tore the whole deck off, just the bow, this winter, and replaced it. And I was really only doing that because I was preparing running wiring for the Ghost. The deck, you'll see other areas of the carpet, it's pushed down, kind of matted. It's not, I mean, it's much more plush than the stuff I put on, but this was just to kind of get me through the next 2 seasons, and then I'm going to redo the entire boat. So the factory carpeting is probably, I'd say 16 or 20 ounce. I'm not even sure. This was just cheap stuff over at Home Depot, indoor outdoor carpet. So this hatch, instead of putting actual latches on them, I just cut some ratchet strap to make a flap to be able to pull them up. It's a lot easier than, I didn't like the factory hatch handles in these, which I'll show you later at the back of the boat. The Swivelies pedestal, that was put in by myself. I'll show you the original one when I get further back of the boat, what the original seat posts look like. The forward has, these were 2 factory compartments. Inside one now, it's nearly empty because I still haven't put everything, all my fishing stuff back in it from when I redid everything. It's a good size compartment, and I added LED lighting. So at night when I'm fishing, I can actually look inside these and they light up really well. it's one big pass-through hatch here. So there's clearly a hatch on this side. This hatch goes to the same compartment. From the factory, there was no onboard charger or anything. I added this the Noco Genius 5x3, so it's 5 amps on 3 different channels. So I'm running all 3 of them to the 3 trolling motor batteries in that front compartment. Over here I've got, there's some junk here, but I'm also running 2, what are they, the battery tender juniors. I've got one run, you can see up here there's some PVC. I'm running this PVC all the way down the port side of the boat to this hatch in the very back where the cranking battery is. And there's another battery tender junior that is, it's running through the back side of the battery compartment up here into some conduit and comes out underneath the console for my fish finder battery. I'm gonna have to replacing that battery anyway because it's just for a little hook to 5-inch triple shot, but I'll be upgrading that later. So I think that takes care of everything on the bow. For the stern, so from the factory you've got your cup holder under here, rod storage, top of the deck rod storage. Let me actually get these rods out of the way. So rod storage here is, it's nice to have it on the deck. I take the boat to work once a week, once maybe twice a week, and I'm able to keep the rods on there as I'm driving to work, but I do take them off at work. There's some less than desirable people at work where I work, so normally where you see this whole platform back here, this normally isn't here. I have underneath here, these are the 4 posts that the seats can normally sit in, and underneath here is storage. I keep my throwables and a ladder that I made for the boat. I keep it down in there as well, and that's just for, of course, go out with family or friends or swimming, we can actually climb back up to get back on the boat. So underneath here is the ladder underneath the 2 throwables. Not really pleased with these compartments on the side. This one, it's bowing a little bit, but it's not to the point where it's a hazard. There's a little bit of a lip on the, I believe, yeah, this is the hinge side. A little bit of a lip there, but only toward the stern of the boat. Toward the bow, it's not too bad. I mean, trackers aren't the top of the line quality boats either, so let me, because I put this deck in, I actually can't get to these compartments with this deck in place. So what I do is I've set it up where I can lift it. It's just on hinges in the back. It's made of 3/4 inch plywood and then a 2x4 base. I lean it all the way forward till it rests on the motor, and then I can get into these compartments. These the lock latches like these, they're garbage in my opinion. I'm not sure if, I never messed with them from the factory. Some people say they're great, other people are still buying them, putting them on their boat. I think they're junk, and my boat will have none of them after I redo the back end next year. So inside here, this is technically a rod locker. It goes all the way up to the bow, past that compartment where the batteries are in. Actually, I've had an 8-foot rod in here for musky fishing, and it fit no problem. You gotta hug it against the hull as best you can, or else you'll start breaking tips off on stuff. In this compartment I keep rain gear, a couple pairs of rain gear. This I got on Amazon. It's an alternative to flares. It does SOS, and as long as it can get out of the water on its own, it floats. Underneath here there's an oar. It came with a wooden oar that I broke being an idiot trying to use it as a ski pole. so that didn't work out. And then my rear navigation light, anchor light. Underneath here I've got a small first aid kit, rod holders that I mounted. They're Canon rod holders. Some extra fuses and a small box with tools, my registration, and all that kind of stuff in there. Hand sanitizer, not because of COVID, I'm not afraid of that, it's just, it's in here. I got people that get in the water and they feel weird about eating after they have been in water. This PVC pipe is the line, or the pipe that the battery tender junior is running from the bow all the way to stern. So that runs all through there. Close this compartment back up. Over on the starboard side, there's another compartment. It's shorter. It's I know, I guess it does go all the way up as well, but something about it just seems shorter. Couple pairs of goggles. These are the original tie-down straps that came with the boat. I keep them on board just in case anything happens to my boat buckles, which I forgot to explain back there. On the back of the trailer, I installed boat buckles instead of the factory stuff. Clearly there's just two socket sets in here, one metric, one standard, and then I've got a Pelican case that I usually keep a firearm in if I'm on the water. And inside there now I think there's a couple pieces of tackle for musky fishing, kids toys, stuff like that. Again, I hate these latches. This is a concerning part of the boat. You can see the wood that this hinge actually connects to over here. The wood seems solid here for the most part, but the hinge has rotted itself off of there. So a lot of water gets in there. I think we actually caused the situation this last summer when we were swimming in the ocean. Had the boat out in the ocean, we're messing around, and my nephews and myself, I'm a little over 200 pounds, we were running and jumping off both sides of the boat, so that probably caused most of the issues. Okay, gauge cluster, 12 volt socket, regular keys and everything. Each one of the gauges are backlit. All the lights still work. Navigation light switches. I don't like this switch. It's first of all, it's crooked, which that's not a problem, but the one side, you can see how little the switch travels, and then going down to the other one, it travels quite a bit. It's never felt right from the factory, but to be honest, when I'm out trolling at night, I really just put the anchor light on anyway, so I rarely ever use the actual navigation light. I've maybe used it 10 times. Live well, autofill, recirc pump out, bilge pump, all these work. Haven't had any problems with them. The only thing I had a problem with the horn, and not the actual horn itself, but the switch. The switch died. It doesn't get a ton of use, but electronics get wet, things wear out. Another cup holder at the bow. Used to be a windshield that came up to about here, and I hated it because when you were sitting in a seat driving the boat, it was right there in the middle of my eye line was the top of the windshield, and you either had to kind of sit up super straight to see over it or crouch down to sit behind it. Wasn't a fan, so I just took the thing off. It's not necessary. In Pennsylvania, a lot of the lakes I fish are electric motor only, so not a whole lot of use for it. The factory fish finder was an Eagle 50, Lowrance Eagle 50 I think it is, whatever the Bass Pro Shops version of that fish finder is. Little 2D device. I put on a Hook 2 triple shot 3 years ago. It's a Hook 2 5-inch triple shot, so it does the regular chirp, 2D side scan, and it has a chart on it. Chart works pretty well. I was just up at Lake Nockamixon today, and it couldn't find our bearings. I looked on the map, or looked on the device last night and saw that it showed Nockamixon and all of its contour levels and everything, so I wasn't too worried about actually pulling up or downloading the map and installing it on the charts, but I probably should have, because today it couldn't find it. One more thing about the bow I forgot, there's a live well here, and this used to be two separate compartments. When I redid everything I just used 3/4 inch PVC board. It was a lot easier than trying to treat wood and everything. The whole rest of the deck is made of wood, but for all the hatches, I use the PVC board. It comes with, I keep this in the boat, a 12mm socket or wrench for the bow connection, battery connections. There's a bait bucket, and then the actual live well, all your water lines in and out. I have a level in here now because I used the level to check at what I basically made the boat the level while sitting on the boat, so I can actually set up my transducer for level when the boat is actually floating. I installed the NOCO what is it? I guess it's a receptacle. So on the back side of here, it actually had a Y for two 115 volt things. One of them is going directly to the 3-bank NOCO charger, and the other one I have split again with another NOCO splitter going to the 2 battery tenders. So when I get home, I just have to plug this one device in and all 5 batteries are charging. Underneath the deck over here, or sorry, the console, I have my trolling motor battery. It's I believe that's a 21 amp hour battery. It'll get my my current charge, or my current graph through the day, through an 8-hour day without any problems, but it probably will not work for anything larger. I'm upgrading to, I was going to go HDS Live, but for the cost, I can't see the difference for my personal use between the HDS Live and the FS. So other than resolution and the anti-glare screen. So I'm going to spend the money elsewhere, eventually get some lithium-ion batteries for the trolling motor, but for the time being, the Elite FS will work. I did put in this 4-bank switch here. As of right now, I've only got the front switch. I mean, all of them work, but there's nothing on the other 3. The front switch is for underdeck lighting, as I said. Marine radio, Uniden. I had one of these, an older model, that lasted for 8 years, sitting in that locker over there, and when it would rain, it would get wet, and the thing never burned up until I dropped it and cracked a little bit of the case. Then it got wet, and that was the end of it. So and I bought the latch on eBay, actually, for like $6 for 2 of them. The deck, it's a vinyl deck, vinyl coat, and I'm not sure what the actual deck under here, I'm assuming it's wood. But one thing I'm not a huge fan of, there's this gutter that runs along both sides, and I get all kinds of, I mean, here's a fuse, a regular glass inline fuse, and I was just about to push it back under there instead of doing what it should do with it. But I've got a pair of vice grips here, some homemade baits, and all kinds of stuff in here. So I remelt all my own plastics, and I've bought my own fresh plastics to make my own baits. But this is a screw from when I took the front deck out, so I've got to go through and clean it from this winter. Here's some metal shavings from when I was drilling through certain parts of the hull, slip sinker. There's all kinds of stuff in here. I should probably put that in there. That's my fire extinguisher mounted in the factory location. Okay, so throttle, no issues here. Trim and everything works perfectly. The boat has 4 cleats on it total. They all work, no issues. I've fallen on one of them. I've fallen on that one once. I think on the one on this starboard side. Ripped a big hole in my bathing suit once. Trying to sit on the edge and hop in, it caught on my bathing suit and ripped it right open. So it was entertaining the rest of the day, but it clearly the cleat didn't go anywhere. So set this guy back down again. Over here there's a built-in cooler. We use it for ski rope storage. I usually just tie the ski rope onto the cleat. I'm not going to pay for a stanchion in order to run the to pull a tuber or a skier, and then miscellaneous other stuff. Rear anchor light, motor well, gas tank. I think that's it for this side. And then over here is the last battery. This is the cranking battery. I have a little ancient adjustable wrench there for loosening of some connectors. They're a little bit different size in the bow, and I have a set of jumper cables in the back, so if I ever get stuck, I can actually jump the cranking motor off of one of my trolling motors, or trolling motor batteries. So that's a good benefit. It's something everybody should have, a set of jumper cables on boat if you have more than one battery on board. The seats, these were the original seats that came with the boat. I think that's 2 3/8 inch stud or base that goes into these plates. On all of these other holes, or all these other seat locations, I actually broke out the guts of the seat because they kept getting stuck. I was getting sick and tired of it. I don't know, up here I never had any problems, but down inside this, under the well, underneath this fake deck, the leaves and anything else blowing around on your drive, or actually while sitting still, would get in around here, and then the seat would go in, because I wouldn't think to look, and then they would just bind the whole seat up, or the whole post up inside the thing. So instead of worrying about that, I took all of these off and busted the base of the plastic piece, so the seat would just go all the way down and stop at the bottom. Couldn't go any further, couldn't latch in. The motor is a 50 horse 2-stroke. I think it was the EPLTO, something along those lines. That it's a good boater. It'll push this at about 20. I think the highest I'd ever seen new was like 31 miles per hour. Now she does about 28. I would assume some of that might be soggy foam in the back. We have fun on the boat, so we're constantly jumping in the water, getting out of the water, soaking wet bathing suits, water running down everything. You go out in the rain, you stay out in the rain, it's not a big deal. So everything gets wet. I'm pretty sure the foam inside has been soaked quite a few times, so that's the way it goes. My ladder that I made, I connect to this handle here. As you can see, it's getting loose. I'm actually purchasing a different ladder this year, as well as a Bimini top. Keep the wife happier when we're out on the water for a couple hours. These are the boat buckles I was talking about. The original buckles were just very chintzy, felt cheap, and I think that's about the whole description of the boat. So things I've had to replace: the rubber V-block for the transom saver. I had to replace this about 3 years ago. Eventually the rubber, you can see this one's actually starting to do it. It actually split all the way down, and the motor would be resting on this cross bolt, and started chewing some stuff up. Motor, third time I took it out, being a rookie, left the motor down, and I chipped the end of the skeg off. Rest of the skeg's in place. I'm not concerned about replacing it, so I haven't done so yet. Propeller, as you can see, I bang it against some stuff. Probably shouldn't, but that's, again, I don't use the gas motor enough to even concern myself with it. The propeller itself is not, I've had it tested, it's not enough out of balance to cause any lower unit damage. So this is the second propeller. The first one I ran aground in the Aztec Sound in Chincoteague, Virginia, and completely stopped the entire boat from 30 miles per hour to nothing in about 7 feet. That was exciting. I had 2 people that had never been on a boat in their lives on it with me at the same time, so they had a whole lot of fun. Here's the hatch to get down into the bilge. I've been in there twice. Once for trying to figure out how I was going to run my new transducer for the Hook 2, and then the other time was just a couple weeks ago. I was cleaning out the entire motor well from grease and oil and anything else that gets in there. But this is the factory skimmer transducer that was with the boat. I didn't pull out any of the wiring because I wasn't sure how the Hook 2 was going to work. I'm pleased with it enough, but again, I am going to be upgrading to the Elite FS. So anything else that broke on it, I can't think of much. I lost this port side cup holder. It flew out on the highway at one point and never saw it again. So my uncle-in-law, he was redoing his boat and put all stainless steel ones in his, so I got this from him for nothing. I think that's about it. I let it run into the dock. It runs into the pier. I mean, It's aluminum. I'm not worried about puncturing, but you can see the decals are in horrible shape. Lots of scratches down the side. Just people getting on the boat while it's resting against the pier, and things like that happen. I'm not going to complain too much. She's a little beat up, but she still does exactly what she's supposed to do. This side is usually up against the pier a lot less, so it looks a whole lot better, but still not in pristine condition. I'm pretty sure that's it. So factory seats, not a big fan with the way the base is set up when dirt and stuff gets in there. And that's just a maintenance thing. If you have an air compressor, you just clean them out every time before you put a seat in, you're fine. I just don't go through that. Right now I usually sit here on the deck when I'm driving the boat at the console. That's not a problem. All the gauges work. The gas gauge it shows something all the time, but I can fill the tank up till it's just about to spew out the top, and it still only shows about a half a tank. So I don't know if that's a tracker thing. Nobody's ever been explained it to me, so I'm not too concerned about it. But I just know, again, I barely get through a tank of fuel, a 23-gallon tank of fuel in a year. So I've only put two-stroke oil in the motor twice in the 10 years of use that I use it. Again, because we usually do trolling motor only or electric motor only lakes. Very pleased with this. The stock trolling motor in its prime with a fully charged battery would struggle to get the boat up to 2.9 miles per hour. That's with the wind to your back. Every optimal conditions, perfectly calm water, it would get maybe 2.9 on a fresh battery. After about 2 hours, you're lucky to get about 2 miles per hour. You spend too much time in the water and you're down around 1.5 miles per hour, which is unbearably slow. This motor I've only had it in the water twice, and both times I think the fastest I've seen was 4.8 miles per hour, which on a trolling motor it's insanity. It's terrific. I can't sing enough praises about it. No issues with it. I think that's it. This isn't a Lowrance Ghost advertisement, so very happy with the boat. Again, I've owned it 11 years, used it for 10. It was sat in storage for an entire season, and I was going through some stuff then, just didn't get the boat out, but very happy with it. Anybody looking for an entry-level boat, I would definitely recommend Tracker Series. New out the door, I think I paid $13,300 for everything, trailer, boat, and all. It was like $12,200, I think, and then there's no way of getting out of paying the destination and freight charges, and then there was some other, and tax, title, and all that biz. So very pleased. No major issues with it. I misplaced the ignition key once and replaced the ignition, and then found the key later that day, so that was upsetting, but there was nothing on Tracker's end, so no issues. I'm happy. Everybody have a good one.